Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to this stream. So yesterday I continued offline, working on the landscape here that we were making in World Machine. So as you can see, I've brought it into Unreal. And I also spent yesterday working on an auto landscape material, which is really nice. So it's automatically adding the cliff material to the cliffs. And I've also got kind of like a dirt or, um, yeah, dirty sandy, rocky surface there, and then sand down here. And so the sand I've actually been manually painting in here because I only want it at the bottom of the canyons here. But let's take a look. That's blue team. I want to spawn at red team. Right now there's no team selection yet, so you just kind of have to keep respawning until you get it. But yeah, I'm actually really quite happy with the layout. I played around with smoothing it up a bit inside of Unreal so you don't get too many jagged surfaces, because sometimes World Machine adds a little bit too much detail, and it ends up being just sharp, spiky triangles inside the engine. And I'm still working on, for some reason, my rocks have got really dark spots you can see. I think it has something to do with the normals, but I haven't been able to fix it, and it's not happening on the sand anywhere. So with the cliffs, I'm actually using World Align texture. So yeah, I gotta figure out why that's happening and fix it. But anyways, so if you can't tell, these checkerboard towers here, these are going to be representing the different capture points. And I've spaced them evenly. I actually went through with a stopwatch app on my phone and made sure the timing is exactly the same for both sides. So even though this map is not symmetrical, the time it takes you, at least, you know, following the major obvious path, the time it takes you to get to any one of the capture points from either the red team or the blue team is like spot on. They're maybe off by a second or two. So yeah, anyways, I think this is going to actually be really cool to have a more open world map like this to contrast with that city map. So yeah, anyways, so I was just going through and painting down the sand, so I was going to show you guys that. So it's actually really cool. You can, because I've set up the auto material, you can just kind of wholesale paint over the entire area, and you don't have to worry it's not going to paint over the rock itself, which is really cool. So then it gets little bits of the sand depositing, you know, where you might think it would show up on the edges here. And I've got a blend happening with the rocks where instead of just looking like a smooth line, it's actually blending based on the normal itself. And then I've also actually set up, so I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the tiling repetition is not very obvious here. I mean, you could see it occasionally, but when you're actually playing in the game, you don't notice. And that's a trick that I created with a camera blend. So basically, it's taking the distance of the camera and it's scaling up the textures when you're further away and then scaling them down when you get close up. So you can kind of see it where you can see these larger landmark shapes. And then as you zoom in, those fade out. And then you can find the same landmarks at a smaller scale. So yeah, it's a great way to make sure your landscapes look right. And I'll share the material with you guys in a minute here. Give you an overview of that so you can copy it and use it in your projects as well, if you want to. But yeah, so it's really handy. It's just blending between the 3 different textures, just to keep it simple. You could always expand it from there, but yeah, it took me all of yesterday and some of today to actually get it working. I only just got it working about half an hour before the stream. But once you build it out, it's a great place to start from. And obviously with instancing, you can use this on any landscape. So yeah, it's really awesome. Quite happy with it. So I think I've got all the major canyon area filled in with sand. And so then I was just going through, let's drop this down. Then I was just going through and adding sand to indicate the paths that you can walk up to get to the different capture points, right? That one feels like, I'm wondering, no, I was gonna say wondering if I should blend it all in here, but actually I think I'll just leave it at this more rocky scree texture. So yeah, right now the blend for between the 2 different ground textures, the sand and the rocky area, they're just using a soft blend. So, you know, if you paint your brush across here, it's kind of like a straight line blend. It's not using the normals yet, so I got to fix that. But it still looks okay if you paint artistically. Just like to make sure those bottom parts have got some sand on them. And then let's look around at all the different paths that you have to go up and make sure. So this is, I guess, one of the major islands, and then this is a secondary one. So we've got, if I zoom out here, this is the layout that we had designed in World Machine. So we had a circle around the outside and then a diagonal flowing through this center, which actually ends up working really well. Not 100% certain how realistic that would be, but I mean, I think it's not so bad, because you could have a river flowing like this and then go in multiple directions here. So it's all right. Anyways, it's a game. I'm not worried too much about realism, but I like to make it somewhat believable. But yeah, the nice thing is when you're actually moving around, it looks really good when you're actually playing. So that's the important part. Okay, so this is a way up here. So I'm just trying to define these paths so they're easy to follow from down at the canyon floor. Just up until you get to the top point there. Maybe I'll bring this over here too. And then that's another path up. I went through with the road tool, the ramp tool, that's what they call it. And I made sure there's multiple ways to get up. So there's no major choke points. I think for this one, I'm just going to crank the radius back up again because it's a larger path. And once I add the normal blending, it'll look like less of a line. All right. So that's there. And we've got the path up there. And this is actually supposed to be a path, but the slope angle is, I guess, a little too steep, so it's getting covered in rock. So I either need to lower the slope angle or figure out how I can unpaint the rock in a specific spot, because it's using scalar parameters to determine the angle of the slope there. So I could either adjust the slope angle, but that might actually remove the rock from some other spots. So probably I'll just go through and bring this slope out a little softer angle. All right, so I think that's all the major paths here. There's a couple there. One here. And I guess probably I should, yeah, because this one's carrying on up here. So I should paint that as well, so it's more obvious. And these two join each other. Sort of. Yeah, they're on two separate sides of a slope, so maybe I'll just leave it. Because at that point, you can see the tower, so you kind of know where to go. But maybe I'll bring it over here too. So it's a bit more obvious. But yeah, so I'm quite happy with the environment so far. And then I guess I'm going to go back and play with the procedural buildings there, so I can get some let's just lower this down a bit. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Blue team. Let's go back to red team. I got a closer way of getting up here. So then, of course, still a ton more work to do on this level, but like in these areas here where the one canyon path is kind of going to the edge of the world, want to have some continuous geometry back there to make it look like it doesn't just end abruptly, even though you can't get to it with the force field. So this is the route that takes longer for the red to get to. I mean, it takes the same amount of time, but this is the furthest point from the red base. And then there's an equal one on the other side that's the furthest point from the blue base. So they're all evenly distributed. But yeah, I'm quite liking the look of this. It's going to be cool once I've got some buildings and more interesting stuff happening here. I think I might put some bridges across the canyons too. So this is just a boost that I added to the jump for imaginary testing of the jetpacks. So theoretically, you'd be able to jetpack across the gap in the canyon. So yeah, I think the theme for this level is going to kind of be like a military outpost. And yeah, I haven't really shown off, but I actually made a custom skybox. I made it for beast mode, and I'm using it in this project as well. So I've actually got a sun texture now that follows the light source, and then if it was a nighttime map, I've got the ability to turn it into a moon. And the clouds will actually move in front of the light source too, which is cool. Or rather the disk, the texture. Whereas with the default skybox, you don't get that. The clouds don't actually block the texture itself, so I separated it into 3 pieces so they can do that. The cloud layer is separate from the sky. And the sun, yeah, I much prefer, to be honest, like, I know Unreal has the volumetric clouds, but A, they're just extra processing that's not necessary, but B, hey, how's it going there, Tom? Thanks for joining the chat. Yeah, I'm just looking around at the skybox here because I've made some changes, and I was just commenting on the fact that I actually prefer the old school skybox effect to volumetric clouds. The volumetric clouds take a lot to get looking right, and they just add an extra performance cost that's not necessary. So in case you missed the stream yesterday, this is a continuation from I've been playing around
using Unreal Engine.
Yes, absolutely. This is Unreal Engine. So I've been playing around with making different prototype levels. So this is prototyping more of an open world map. So yesterday, or sorry, the day before on the last stream, I was designing this inside a world machine, and now I've brought it into the engine. So this is just taking a look at the layout. So there's these checkerboard towers are going to be the various capture points. So there's going to be 3 capture points in every map, and I threw the mech here just to see the scale of another player. Because I haven't had a chance to try this in multiplayer yet. But we do have that functionality working now, so it's really cool. Sudo got the basic networking set up, so we're going to be testing that together at some point. And yeah, so this is just prototyping out the various multiplayer maps to get a feel for the scale of the world.
What version
And
is it?
oh, this is Unreal 4. Unreal 5 is still in early access, so to speak. So it's not feature complete. And I've worked with Unreal Engine since Unreal 3, and the pattern with Epic's development for Unreal Engine with Unreal 4 is that it took a long time before they actually got it basically feature complete. About 420 was the version where it really started to get stable and really useful, and then they were just improving things after that. So with Unreal Engine 5, don't really see the benefit. I mean, obviously there's the graphical
Wait,
fidelity
so
jump.
you can't play Unreal Engine 5 on Linux?
I don't know actually. I would assume that Unreal Engine 5 will support Linux eventually, but right now I'm to be honest, I haven't even I mean I've downloaded and looked at the engine, but no, I'm sticking with 4 just because it's stable and it's finished. So yeah, Unreal 5, even though you do get the graphic fidelity boost, there's still going to be a lot of moments where Epic's going to be changing the core tools. And since we're just a two-man team, that could actually prove really dangerous. I had it with a previous project that I was working on where, with Unreal Engine 4, where there was a bug that was introduced when Epic made changes to the engine, and it fully broke my game. And I had a month where I couldn't do anything. So I couldn't make any progress on the project. So it kind of stagnated me. And I don't want to risk that right now. We're just trying to get this game out there. So yeah, we're sticking with Unreal
Are you
4.
using Linux?
I'm not using Linux. No, I'm a Windows guy. But there's obviously the ability to port Unreal 4 to every platform. So in the future, we would absolutely love to get a version of the project onto Linux as well. So I'm guessing you use Linux yourself? Alrighty, so let's take a look at the landscape material that I put together. So a couple of things. So I've got, as I was explaining earlier, I've got the near textures and the far textures. So those are actually just using the same.
Cause you see, I'm having this problem where I install Engine 4 or a version of Engine 4, I make a project blank one, and then it gives me a black screen and sometimes it can't even install.
Oh, that's got to be frustrating. And you're using Linux, I'm guessing. Yeah, I wish I could help you and offer some advice on how to fix it, but sadly it's I don't have any experience with 5. And also I have no experience with Linux, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be able to help you if you post on the
Yes,
Epic
Linux I am
forums.
using.
Yeah, so the Epic forums works really well. Also, there's an Unreal Engine Reddit, and between the two of them, I tend to bounce between them. They're really good for trying to troubleshoot. I'm sure there's somebody who's using Unreal 5 on Linux, if it's officially supported anyways. It might be something that Epic's not going to support until later in the future. I'm trying to remember I think Unreal 4, when it first launched, it had a year in early access, and I think it was Windows only during that year of early access. And then when Epic decided to release it for free for everyone to use, I think that's when they introduced Linux. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I would definitely suggest looking on the Unreal Engine forums because they're really good for that. So yeah, this is using the same parameters here, but it's just specifying a different scale for the texture size. And then I'm basically...
Sorry I am a lit annoying and glad you talk a lot. Just to warn you, I'm just trying to at the moment just figure out how I can successfully smoothly run the engine on Linux, and this annoyed you as well.
It's not annoying at all, man. Don't worry. I love having someone to chat with. So no, I really wish I could help you more. That would be great if I had something that I could say to that you could do to fix it. But sadly, I don't have any experience with either Unreal 5 or Linux, so can't help much. But yeah, don't worry about annoying me. It's not an annoyance at all. It's part of the process. That's exactly why I'm here to stream, right? So yeah, so this is just using material attributes, and then there's a blend material attributes node. This is essentially like a L.A.P. It's just for blending between two material attributes, so it's blending all of the materials, so your roughness, your normal, world displacement, everything at once. So it's much more powerful than a L.A.P. And then for the alpha, this is my camera distance fade function. So they actually do have a camera distance. Let's see, camera position. No, that's not it. There's a node actually for that comes with Unreal for doing this, but it has some issues with what was it? With displacements, I believe. So I had to modify it. So basically, I'll show you guys what the modified version is. They had a pixel depth in here that wasn't necessary. And that was causing issues. It was giving me a shader compiler. So I just modified it to remove that. So this is basically the same as the default camera fade.
If you make a character and you make it run with, for example, what you are using like a desert sort of place, and when it's running on it, can you make like footprints and dust off the floor?
Yeah, absolutely. That's stuff that, comes later. Right now, we're still just in the early prototyping phase. But yeah, in my indie game Beast Mode Night of the Werewolf, I've actually done just that. So we've actually got it so when you're running through the desert map, it's leaving trails in the sand. So you're actually like sinking into the sand by a couple of inches and leaving trails, and that looks really cool. So I'm absolutely planning to do that for this project as well. It's just the special effects and stuff like that, they come way later. It's too early right now to worry about that. But yeah, it's something we're planning on doing. So yeah, I think it was called camera depth, the original node. Yeah, there we go. Camera depth fade is the original. And so if you open up this function, you see they've got all this extra stuff with pixel depth. It actually isn't necessary for it to work. So yeah, I just modified it and got rid of those extra nodes. So this is essentially, if you preview this.
My idea was, you might remember this game on PlayStation or Xbox or PC, Battlefront 2, and they never came out with a third one, so that's what I'm trying to make basically.
Nice. That sounds fun. Yeah, Battlefront 2 is the Star Wars one, right? Yeah, my nephew freaking loves that game. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember playing it quite a bunch. Yeah, that would be awesome to work on. Good luck with that. Um, so yeah, yeah. So anyways, I can't preview it. I realize because I changed it to a material function. It's missing some of the values here. But when you plug in a fade distance, this is actually just going to become black when you're close up and white when you're far away. And that just allows you to blend between the two different LERPs, air quotes, which are the material blends there, the blend material attributes. So basically, it's just switching between the near distance in A and the far distance scale in B, based on the camera's distance from the object. And that's how you get that fade ability, and how to help deal with the obvious tiling issues from a distance that you get in a landscape. So yeah, you'll notice how it doesn't matter whether I'm far away or close up, everything still looks
I'm very new, so
nice
I've only
to
just
scale.
started doing the launching for Epic Games Launcher and then installing the engine itself. I'm having quite issues with the engine loading up, so quite new.
Oh yeah, that's frustrating. Well, one bit of advice I have for you, once you get your engine issues sorted out, um, don't try to start making your dream project. I really strongly, like, I've been doing this for 25 years now. I got into game design in 1999 with the original Half-Life, and started playing around with the level editor there. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was just trying to jump straight in. You get so excited when you're able to start making things, and then you want to just dive into making your dream game project. And that, like, I wasted so much time and so much money trying to work on projects that I didn't yet have the ability to actually make. And like one of them, I spent 7 years working on a game and probably $35,000 of my own money, hiring artists to make custom assets and stuff. And at the end of it, I mean, it was a great learning experience. And at the end of it, I got a really cool kind of animated demo, but it wasn't playable. I kept running into issues with programmers and stuff, and I didn't know how to code myself at that time. So, yeah, it made it impossible for me to finish. So yeah, my suggestion that I tell anybody who's trying to get into game design is to spend your first few years just learning everything that you can. And programming is the most important thing, because you can have all the sexy art assets in the world and they don't combine together to make a game. Whereas you can have only code and no art, and you can still make a game out of that. So yeah, programming is definitely what I recommend. Blueprint is a fantastic way with Unreal to start learning the concepts of programming. What functions are, what booleans are, what variables are, what a for loop is, that sort of thing. And those are just the basic programming concepts. And then from there, either C++ with Unreal Engine or C Sharp with Unity, and you can actually start learning to code properly. But you can make a lot of really cool stuff just with blueprints. Like, I've made and released a full game that only used blueprints, so it's still a really powerful thing. But yeah, the best advice I have for anybody is just spend time learning. Your game design is not easy. It is easy to get a level thrown together really quickly and to start putting some models in the world, but actually making a proper game takes a lot of effort and a long time to learn. So I would say spend the first like 3 to 5 years just learning as much as you can about game design in general and all aspects of it: animation, programming,
Thanks, man, for the
level
info.
design, that sort of thing. It's kind of like, I think everybody gets excited when you're super passionate for playing games and you start to dabble in making something, it's really exciting. And so you can get carried away, but you don't see somebody, starting to learn to play guitar and they've got like four chords that they can play and then they decide to make their first album, right? Like usually somebody who's making an album has played guitar for 5+ years. And for some reason, I notice with game design, like so many people are trying to start making a full game before they've even had 1 year of design experience. So yeah, it's a much better idea to just dabble and play around with creating things on your own that you're not planning on becoming a full game project, and then move from there, maybe join a mod team or something like that, like any of the engines, which is getting more rare, but any of the engines like any of the games that use Unreal Engine, like Ark Survival Evolved, they actually give you mod tools and stuff like that. So working on a mod for another game that uses the engine that you're familiar with is kind of the best way to learn. But yeah, it's just mistakes that I've made. So my advice is just trying to save everyone else time so you don't end up wasting it. It's like just learn first, then worry about making your game. And it's something that I still struggle with today, to be honest. You can never know everything. I've literally done this for 25 years, and it probably took me 15 years to get to the point where I knew most of the major aspects of game design, but I still have only just brushed the surface of every aspect. Anyways, so yeah, this is just going back over the material again. So this is blending between the two different ground materials. So I've got my dirt. The DA stands for diffuse.
One day Battlefront 2 will be free. What you think?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, EA still, they technically remade it themselves with the new Battlefront series. So, and I think, didn't they get to Battlefront 2 again with the new series? I know it's not the same game. Originally, I think it was made by Pandemic Studios. So, yeah, the Pandemic got closed down after EA. I think I said Epic earlier. I meant EA. But anyways, Pandemic got closed down after EA bought them out. So yeah, I doubt it's going to be free because I don't think EA is ever going to want to let go of the rights to it. It's Star Wars, right? It's worth a lot. But yeah, making your own, like that's exactly where, what's the new Netflix game? Is Moon, Rebel Moon? I think that's the name of it. It's a Zack Snyder movie, and he wanted it to be a Star Wars movie, but Disney turned down his pitch, and so he just said, "Okay, forget it. I'll just work on it on my own and make my own movie out of it." And that's the sort of thing you could do. You could start as working on Battlefront 2, the unofficial spiritual successor, and then turn it into your own thing. I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing with L.A.P.D right now, right? I don't own the rights to the IP, so a spiritual successor is the best thing you can do. You make an unofficial sequel and make sure that it's unique enough that you don't get sued in the process. So yeah, it's a great way to build up a fan base, basically, because you're tapping into that shared nostalgia. So yeah, continuing with this, DA stands for diffuser albedo. RHAO, usually I do an RMAO, which is roughness, metallic, and ambient occlusion, but in this case, all the materials don't have any metallic, so the metallic's just set to 0. So it's just combining textures together in separate channels. They're all black and white textures, right, for the roughness, metallic, height map, ambient occlusion. So if you just combine them each into a separate channel, it's a way to save on texture memory. So if you load up one of the textures here, in the red channel, I've got the roughness. In the green channel, I've got the displacement or the height map. And then in the blue channel, I've got the ambient occlusion. And so that's just specifying that here and splitting them all out, red into roughness, green into world displacement with the power, so I can adjust how much it displaces, and then B into the ambient occlusion. And then we got our normal map in there, and then this is just the sand texture. So again, the albedo, roughness, height, ambient occlusion, and normal map. And as I said earlier, those are combining with the blend material attributes. And then those are plugging into a landscape layer. So if you go layer, a blend, let's see, I think it's landscape layer sample. Yeah. Landscape layer sample. No, that's not it either. Jeez. Landscape layer blend. Landscape layer blend. So yeah, you take a landscape layer blend. Oh, I should have known that based on the title. And you can add as many different materials as you want here, but this is, again, it's like combining material attributes. So you name them, you give it a custom name after adding your array elements. So this one was ground, the other one is dirt. And then the preview weight, I just set them to 0.5 and 0.5 so you can see a blend between the two. And then that is coming back into a matte layer blend standard. And then you're specifying which material you want to be on the tops. So, i.e., this texture here, it's on the top of the mesh. And then the base becomes your rocks here. And this is a blend function. So I'll show this quickly. So this is essentially just saying we're going to do it in the Z vector. And then it's allowing you, I created inputs for your normal texture, the normal blend, which is a scalar value, the height min, the height max, and blend contrast. And essentially what this is doing is this is doing the code to split the mesh from a top and a bottom part, basically. And it's applying one texture to the top and one texture to the rest of it. So save that. And going back in here. So that's our auto blend. The height min is set to -5. And then I've just got a slider min max values. So if you're adjusting this in an instance, you can't go to values that'll break it. Height maximum is set to 3. The blend contrast, I've got it set to 0. You can play with this, but it basically just makes the edge of the blend sharper. So if we're looking here and I adjust the blend contrast, it's just going to make that a sharper, let's see, like 1. It just makes it a sharper blend, 5. So it softens it up a bit, but you might want to have control over that. And then the normal blend amount is just specifying how much of the normal map for the rock texture it's going to use to blend between the two different textures. So 0.25 was just a value that I found that works. If you set it to 1, you'll see that it gets just a tiny little dusting. So 0.25 is just kind of blending it out more in a way that I like the visuals of. Anyways, and so same thing here with the cliffs, except that these are set up to be world-aligned textures. The reason you do that is to avoid the stretching. So oftentimes when you're using a height map for your terrain, you'll get a lot of stretching because this is just a 2D projection. So basically, if you look at where is that wireframe, brush wireframe. Oh, and it's hard to see with the sky sphere as well, but you get the idea. So you get these polygons. You see how they're stretching here. These aren't squares anymore. They're not quads. They're actually really long rectangles, and that causes your texture to be stretched as well. It's just a downside to working with a height map. So a lot of the time, game designers will only use the height map for the ground that you're walking on, and then they'll tend to cover the cliffs and stuff like that with geometry. But if you want a good workaround to avoid the stretching, and if you just want to use mostly a height map, then yeah, setting it to world aligned texture, basically it ignores the UVs of the mesh, which is the landscape, and yeah, you don't have to worry about stretching anymore. So same thing, this is just using the same parameters, 3 parameters on the top and the bottom, but we're just adjusting the scale of the texture. So the far scale is set to 2048 and near scale is set to 512. So that way when you're close up, you still get all the detail, and when you're further away, it looks really nice as well. And so here, I'm just using 2 world-aligned textures for the RHAO and normal and diffuse albedo. I actually didn't name these, so that was stupid of me. But anyways, and then a world-aligned normal for the normal map. Here, because this is actually giving us all 3 channels combined, then you can actually drag out and type in break, and you can break out the float 3 components, and that gives you your RGB again. So R going into roughness, G going into displacement, which I just disconnected because I was trying to see if the displacement was causing those black spots all over my landscape, these ones, but it wasn't. And so I can probably plug those back in. World displacement. And down here. And then, yeah, blend material attributes again. The alpha still driven by my camera distance fade. And then plugging that in to the base of the
GTA 6 will be coming out next year. If you didn't know, you probably did, and it said it be using Unreal Engine. Well, hopefully, cause I think it used something else in GTA 5, but you know, new generation.
Yeah, I'm not sure if GTA 6 is using Unreal Engine. My guess is Rockstar is still using their own custom engine. It does look sexy as hell, but yeah, they put so much effort into making their own engine for the GTA series, and its rendering capabilities are, well, it's literally been made for that game series. So I can't imagine it's using Unreal 5. I think maybe that's just fans getting excited and seeing the graphic fidelity and assuming it's Unreal Engine 5. But yeah, you don't have to have Unreal Engine 5 in order to achieve the same rendering that you get in the engine. AAA studios, typically, they know how to code that sort of stuff. So anything that Epic puts into Unreal Engine, you know,
Yeah,
another
Rockstar's still
studio can
using their
figure it
launch
out.
changing, but they're basically using Unreal too. I'm guessing they're using it and then importing it to their engine and then doing something else to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't see why they'd be using Unreal 5 because it would probably set them back a lot just learning how to use the engine. It's not easy switching from one engine to another, especially if you're using a custom in-house one. So my guess is they're only using their engine, but yeah, I don't know for sure. There's a possibility for absolutely. Okay, so yeah, again, just continuing going over this for anybody who would want to implement something similar. So the matte layer blend standard, that's actually not a custom function. That's just default with the engine. And then the alpha is being driven by my material function here that I already showed. And over in this point, I'm breaking out the normal. So I'm breaking the material attributes again because I want the normal. I can't just grab one of these normals because they're at a different scale. So I need the scaled normal, which ends up being over here in the combined version. So I'm just breaking that out again and getting the normal and using that to blend the rocks. And so that makes sure that when you're at the far distance or the near distance, it's still giving you the right value, basically, for the texture scale. And then that's all being broken again, and then plugged directly back into the landscape material. The reason for this is I was getting an issue when I was trying to use material attributes and just plugging straight in. I was getting shader errors. And I don't know if that was due to another issue that I already fixed, but at this point I just decided to leave it. And then here I've just got a parameter lowering the default value of the specular because the rocks were looking a little too reflective and plasticky. So yeah, that's the entire material for an auto landscape. So if I were to save this and then go over to my landscape mode and go into sculpting, if we were to just sculpt something out here, let's increase the radius. So if you sculpt something out here, so you'll see it automatically applies the rocks on the side and the other materials on top. Now the reason this is sand on top is because I already manually painted this area, so the landscape it's already been told to make that sand, but by default it would actually be this gravel material here. But anyways, so yeah, let's see, what time is it? My God, I always stream for an hour and I feel like it's only been 10 minutes. So I was gonna get back over into, excuse me, I was gonna go back over into the procedural tools, but I think our stream is getting a little long in the tooth. So maybe I will continue that on the next stream. So yeah, I think we're already at 52 minutes. I think we'll just call this done. I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to show for anybody who might want to just be learning a little bit of game design from this. Yeah, I think that covers everything. I showed off the entire material, showed off the material functions. So those are the only things that we need to show off. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it a day. So thanks so much, Tom, for joining the stream. Don't worry at all about annoying me. As I said earlier, it wasn't an annoyance at all. Love having you here. Hopefully you'll jump in on the stream next time. And yeah, everyone else, thanks so much for watching if you're doing so after the fact. And I will see you guys next time. All right. Have a great rest of your day.